Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of From Idea to Market Fast. I'm Patrick Bentley. I'm the co founder of LaunchTrail, and I'm also your host. So each week, we highlight an entrepreneur and we have an idea boost that's going to help you to boost your business. So this week, we've got Alan O with us, and Alan O is the founder of Digital Solopreneur. And so he helps purposeful online course creators to fight mediocrity by writing story-based emails that stand out from the crowd and brings enrollees into the door. So Alan, when he's not writing emails, is the father of a 4-year-old daughter. But most importantly, Alan helps entrepreneurs to create online courses and then helps them figure out how to get people to enroll. So Alan, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, no problem, man. So where are you joining us from today, Alan?
I'm coming from you from my lovely home in Manila.
Nice,
So
nice.
from the Philippines, yeah.
Okay, great, man. Well, thanks for joining us today. So I'm going to jump right in and start with the first question, which is, tell us who your ideal client is.
Yeah, for me, well, my ideal client are online course creators who have an active list, but who need help with improving their conversions.
Okay, great. So tell me a little bit more about what's the problem that you solve.
Right. So with course creators, often have like valuable, engaging content, but have this trouble in translating their purpose into like emails that convert subscribers into customers, because they have that notion that if try selling it, my message will be diluted. It would sound sales. It's like selling your soul to the devil. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
that like limiting belief. Yeah.
yeah. People definitely, and I have that same fear of sounding too salesy, right? And then thinking that people aren't going to trust me. I think we all sort of associate being a salesman with like being sleazy, or just not being a good person. So it's definitely a fear of mine too. So what are some of the typical symptoms that a person or a company has when they experience that problem?
Well, the actual one you can see is, of course, lower than expected conversions. But you see, what I noticed, like, there's a secondary symptom, which is usually the procrastination to writing emails. It's because it's not because hard, it's not because they don't know what to say, but it's that fear, what you talk about, like that fear of being salesy, right? Of being seen in a different light, because you know that deep inside you're somebody who has so much value to offer.
Mm,
But it seems like writing this email is counter to that identity that you have. So procrastination is some also a symptom, right? It feels like just productivity, but deep down there's an inner prison that doesn't
mm,
allow you to bloom, right?
mm,
And they end up writing emails that don't pop. It's because more than they feel that rather than showing their product in the best light, they're worrying about unsubscribes or what people will say about them.
yeah.
So it's like focusing on the negative, the haters, the trolls, rather than serving your ideal audience. So those are kind of the symptoms that I see when people have a hard time with this.
Okay. So the next question then, rolling right after that, is what are some of the mistakes that you've seen made when people try to solve that problem?
Right. So the natural reaction that I see people is they retreat, right? They try to email less when they
Mm,
see unsubscribes, which is kind of, for my end, it's the opposite strategy that you should take, because you should actually email more. The reason being is that even the reason we're emailing, the reason we're selling via emails, and the reason anybody would buy anything from you, it's because of the reasons to get the trust is through familiarity. And there are studies shown. I even saw one in Netflix where they have where they do experiments on them and see how their biases would influence their judgment.
mm,
And they had this, and they would choose for a second or two longer than the rest. Then they would ask that, I forgot the exact question, but who's the most beautiful or who's the most trustworthy? And it often they often choose, like majority would choose the person that was that was given a second or two more exposure
Mm,
compared to the person who's just being different. So it means that like familiarity does play a role in how we perceive a person. Yeah. And emailing is not only about selling, it's also subconsciously it's about branding as well. See your
mm,
name in their inbox, the more value they get from that, you your name like by the at the end of the day, if you can go to a level where they see your name and they open your inbox, your email,
yeah.
that connection. It almost doesn't matter what the subject line is, because if you're somebody who they don't trust, no matter what subject line you put there, they're not gonna open it if they don't trust your brand, your name, right? So I think that is the common mistake that people do. They retreat rather than attack and show more of themselves.
Mm, mm. So, with that being said, can you provide one valuable free action that the audience could take to start solving this problem today?
For sure. So one of the things that I think is holding people back is like, of course, when you hit publish, when you hit send, you're putting yourself out there, right? You're being vulnerable. You're putting your name out there. You're sending this email up for people to judge you, whether they unsubscribe, they hit reply with a hate message, they love you, or they buy your product. You're exposed, right? You're vulnerable,
Yeah.
and that kind of thinking can be paralyzing, right?
Yeah.
Because we're putting the spotlight on us. So one thing that you can do right now is, instead of putting the spotlight on you, put it on your reader, on your subscriber. Like, I'm doing this for them, right? So one of the actions that you can do, if you're writing, for example, your audience is a lot are into apps, right? Creation of apps, bringing that idea into the market. So one of the things you can do is, for example, if you're writing an app for um, people who has arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis, what you can do is go to Google, type in a day in the life of. So that's this magic keyword, a day in the life of, then include the market. So it's a day in the life of someone with arthritis, of someone with painful back pain. So when you read that, right, when you read that article, you can empathize with them. You can understand. It's the closest thing to walking a mile in their shoes, right?
Mm,
Because people right now are basically putting their lives on the internet, so you don't necessarily have to live our lives in their shoes because they're gonna show you how it is.
yeah.
So if you read that, you can understand their pain, right? Actually, when you read that, you can actually get those words that they've been using, right? And use them in your copy, right? Not necessarily plagiarizing it, but what I mean is, if you can, by reading those articles, you become relevant to your reader, right? You become relevant because you understand them, and you can also see the exact words that they use to describe their pain, right? So I know that from one article that I read, one person who has arthritis really wants to is looking forward to the day that he or she can wear a t-shirt, right? Because it's so painful to raise her hand, right? So she's always settling for button-up shirts.
Mm,
So things like that, like, you wouldn't know if you don't experience it. But if you take some time to study their lives, understand their pain, those simple sentences, if you put that in your email and you send it to the right market and they read that, then damn, this, like, Patrick knows who I am. Like, he knows
right.
what I'm going through, because it's not a thing that anybody would just know,
Yeah.
right? And if you do that, like, you put the emphasis on your reader rather than yourself, it feels less of being vulnerable, but more like you're reaching your hand out, right?
Mm,
So I think that's an action that you can take right now, that can encourage you and make you even excited to write an
yeah.
email,
And
because
so
it's
and
not
so
about you, you're
just
helping out.
just being able to understand who your customer is on a more intimate level. Is that what you're
Right.
saying? Like just really taking the time out to dig into who your customer is and understand their problems better. Is that pretty much what you're
Yes,
saying?
that's it, but also on a deeper level, to feel that empathy.
Okay.
right? Especially when you're in the health niche, like you can feel the pain of the person.
Mm.
It's like we're recording this in the middle of a pandemic, right? And there's a lot of like heroic like medical frontliners. When you hear their interviews, like they feel that this is their purpose, like they swore an oath to do this, and when when you do that, when you hear their stories, it's like you can relate to them. You're more likely to donate to their cause. You help out. I've seen some people babysit children of medical frontliners
Yeah.
because they can connect with them on a deeper level. And reading these stories, for example, for me as a copywriter, it makes me connect with them on a different level, even if I haven't experienced it myself. So, as an app developer, if you're doing it, we're basically doing the same thing. Like you're serving somebody else, right? And as an app developer, if you can empathize, like deeply, not just understand in an intellectual level, but also feel that in an emotional level. I think that will resonate with whatever marketing material you create, like whether it's copy, whether it's images, whether it's video. And yeah, I think that will kind of you can sense that, right? You can sense that even if you talk to somebody, you can sense their sincerity, how much they pay attention. And I think by doing that, it will people can feel that in the material, the communication that you send out.
Nice. So, Alan, I guess the next question is important too, which is, can you point us in the direction of a valuable free resource that the audience could take a look at and help them along this route of being able to write, more effective copy or just to be better solopreneurs?
Sure, sure. So I put together 30 of my favorite like subject lines because David Ogilvy, one of the like OGs of advertising, has said that when you've written the headline of your ads, you basically spent 80 cents of your dollar, right? So
Mm,
that's how important like the headline is. And I want to encapsulate that in my freebie where I choose some 30 of the best subject lines that I've seen. And I don't only give you a list of subject lines, I also categorize them. So if you want straight benefit, I give you that. If you want a subject line that's more personal, I give you that. If you want something that would has some shock factor to grab people's attention, I sorted them out so that it gives you time, to write your own email without worrying about the subject line. You can
yeah.
just choose what has been proven. So that's done for you, so that it's a weight off your shoulders, and you can ship your emails much faster.
Okay. I'm going to take a look at that. So again, everybody, make sure you check that out. If you're writing email copy, it's free. So it's just 30 subject lines. So I'm definitely going to be using that for the next 30 days at least, and digging into that, because this is a problem that, or let's not say a problem, but it's definitely a skill that I am trying to cultivate. And I think if you've got an online business, it's definitely something that you need to take a look in. So final question. So what's the one question that I should have asked you, but I didn't? And then of course, what's the answer?
Yeah. So one thing that I often get asked, like in informal talks, is how long should I keep sending emails? Right?
Mm-hmm.
How should I keep sending emails? Because the problem is a lot of people consider emails as an afterthought, right? And
Mm,
I'll build everything, and I'll just spend the rest of my time writing emails just to send it out, right? So that's how they perceive it. And I don't answer them right away. Instead, I ask them another question, and I ask them, well, how long do you want to make money? Right? Because with veterans that I've seen in the market, um, generally, the more emails you send, the more money you make,
mm.
right? Of course, unless you're sending out spam or you're burning your email list again and again. If you're relevant and you send valuable content, generally, the more emails you send, the more money you make. So I think the reason people have that thinking of like how many emails do I have to send is that they consider emails as like disposable spoon or disposable fork. That once you send it, that's it, right? But for me, I consider emails as assets. right? So when I do product launches, when I have an email sequence that converts, sometimes I literally just send it to the new set of people, new market, same emails, barely touching anything, and it will still convert, right? Because we always think that there's always novelty in the new emails, new angles, new everything. But what they forget is the magic is really in the message, right? That sequence of emails has created a narrative that made your offer compelling and has proven to convert. So if you have that kind of mindset, you will take your time writing those emails and treat them accordingly, because like studies have shown that emails is still one of the best platforms to convert subscribers to customers. They say that they have like $44 to $1 ROI. So I'm not sure if that's still valid, but that's how much value email has, right? And if you do a survey of how many social media accounts people have, like you might have a Facebook, Instagram, I might have LinkedIn and Facebook. We all have different combinations, but the one thing we all have in common is an email address, right? Everyone has an email address. You can't buy anything from Amazon if you don't give your email address. So if you're taking emails for granted, you're basically saying that this digital DNA of everyone, email, is not worth it, right? When in fact, it is the most widely distributed marketing channel in the world. So yeah. So to answer that question, like how long they want to make money. So that's basically your answer
So
there will
basically,
define how
it
long
should
yeah,
be
you can make
a
money.
perpetual kind of thing that you're doing, right? Like you should always be sending emails, always refining your copy. Just it should just be a part of your business, right?
If you because we think about, because our subscribers are more than numbers. There are each number is a human on the other side. In order to survive in this business, we have to create that long-term relationship, right? So the same way we preserve our friendships, our relationship with our relatives, families, it's through, that's why we have reunions, right? We have to meet each other to renew that bond, right? And if we send out emails regularly, we don't even have to renew that bond, because it's just going to get stronger and stronger, and these people will stay with you, yeah, with whatever platform you use, right? So more than thinking about it as perpetual sending, it's more about strengthening relationships.
I like how you put that. So here's a follow-up question, and I'm just curious about this. So what's a good conversion rate for an email? Like what kind of percentage should we expect for like opens and I guess conversions, whatever that expected activity is? What's a good click rate?
Well, that's always a tricky question, because it would always depend. Like, for instance, like generally for open cards, you tend to have higher opens, higher click rates, but not necessarily higher conversions. When you're about to close your card, like you have a deadline coming up, generally the open rates may be lower than the open rates, but the click rates will be higher because there's that deadline coming up, right? So it's generally hard to like just have a fixed figure, but I would say anything like below 10% open rate is a bit alarming. So that may be caused by deliverability issues. Um, Generally, if you have content, you're sending out content, I target around 10% of those people who open my email to click on that link. So that's a ballpark figure. Generally, when you're driving people to a sales page,
Mm-hmm.
that generally has a lower click-through rate if
Yeah.
it's just a perpetual offer compared to like a specific launch, right? Because there's some excitement with a launch. So
Mm-hmm.
generally the click rates are higher. But if it's just like a regular email, not part of an event, generally like a sales page would have a lower click rate than content. So that's just a general benchmark. And yeah, if they open the email, I target 10% to click the link, especially if it's content. So if it's sales page, it's kind of all, I wouldn't say there's a fixed benchmark, but it's generally lower than content. I average around, say, around 20% in terms of open rates for my general list. My customer list, it's a bit higher, more than 50, around 50 and above for customer
Nice.
list.
Nice.
So just to give you some benchmark for to guide you, but not necessarily like to pigeonhole you in what the rate should be.
Right, right. Okay, Alan. Well, that concludes everything. Thank you again for your time. So everybody, please make sure that you check out the link to Alan's free resource for 30 subject lines that you can use when you're marketing your email list. Also, make sure that you follow Alan. You check out his website, which is digitalsolopreneur.com. He's got a lot of good resources there, along with a lot of good courses. And if you have ideas that you may want to turn into a course, then you could also reach out to Alan. I'll make sure that all of these links are in the description, or they're going to be in the social media posts. As always, make sure that you sign up for our weekly newsletter or sign up for our mailing list so that we can get your resources to help you boost your business. And until next time, Alan, thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.